Welcome to the Artist Talk Mental Health YouTube channel. We are here with some amazing actors that are stopping through the Pittsburgh area that are playing in the play Fat Ham. We have Jordan Williams, who plays Tio in the play. We also have Brandon Foxworth, who plays Juicy. And we have our high esteemed therapist, Dr. Darla Timbo. We're going to be interviewing them about their characters today and just talking through some mental health things that come up for artists in the city or outside of the city. You guys are from LA. So will you tell us a little bit about you as an actor, your career, and just introduce yourself? We'll start with you.
Yes. Again, I'm Brandon Foxworth, he, him pronouns, they, them pronouns. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I went to undergrad at Western Michigan University, got my bachelor's, and went to UC Irvine to get my master's. I'll just say that my art as a theater maker, as a filmmaker, is a very spiritual practice for me. I'm a minister. I was ordained as a minister when I was 15, 16 years old.
That's beautiful.
And I found my way into it through doing theater and doing sermons at church. And so as I continue to grow older, I'm really realizing that this is just my ministry. This is how I am able to give. It is such a beautiful and vulnerable art form that allows you to be a vessel for people to live through you and for God to live through you. So, yeah.
Beautiful. That's how you got into acting, was through ministry. And when did you start
acting?
When did you get into?
I started when I was 16 years old in high school, when I was a junior.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and the first show I ever did was a show called Ruined by Lynn Nottage, which is about the genocide of the African women in the Congo. And I played a rebel soldier who was a very tough character to play at 16. But what it taught me, really starting there, my high school director, Marilyn McCormick, who I love you, MC, she really taught us, like, you know, this happens in Mama Nadi's, like a brothel. And, you know, we're young 16, 17, 14, 15-year-olds, like, oh, you know, the girls are like, oh, we're going to get to wear these outfits. And the guys are like, oh, we're playing these soldiers. But on the first day, she showed us a video of the women in the Congo, and if you don't know, being ruined is when they take out the reproductive system with a machete. And there's many practices. And that really held our hearts still when we saw that. And she showed us this video of these women talking about how strong they were and how they are warriors. And it really made us see, oh, this is not for you to be famous. This is not for you to look cool or look cool in this outfit or in this soldier uniform. You have a responsibility to tell these stories, not only for those who will come to see it in the audience, but those who can't come see theater. Those women out there who don't even know that their story is being told, you know? So it started out when I started acting that this is to give, this is to create and evoke social change. It's not about you.
Oh, wow.
You know, it is about affecting those so that people feel seen. And yeah.
What an amazing way to step into, like, your artistry.
Yes, indeed. God is good.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your acting career, but introduce yourself as well, just like as a human, and tell us how you got into acting.
Well, yeah, I'm Jordan. I play Tio along with Brandon, who plays Juicy in the play Fat Ham. I went to undergrad at Tougaloo College in Jackson, Mississippi, and then graduate school at the University of Arkansas. So I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. So I've been through a lot in terms of culture shock and meeting different people who come from different walks of life and relating to those people. And I got the opportunity to go on a trip to China when I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
That I really think opened my mind just to the possibilities of, like, what life could be. And I think that was something that kind of inspired just my desire to really connect with people for work. I knew that I wanted my job to be connecting with people. And that kind of led me to that open-mindedness that created a passion for stand-up comedy. And so I got into stand-up comedy that kind of led into theater. And so now I'm at the point where I'm kind of navigating the space between both. But I've always used stand-up comedy as kind of like a vehicle to navigate through all the different culture shocks of going from LA to Mississippi, and then from Mississippi to Arkansas, which are just three completely different spaces to be in. But super excited to be working on this play, and happy to be here.
Yeah, so the trip to China, that's what kind of got you into acting, or what was your first experience with acting? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, so my first experience with acting was in high school, at Crenshaw High School, in a play that was with a conservatory called Amazing Grace Conservatory under Wendy Raquel Robinson. And so it was basically a conservatory that she has in the community of South LA that brings all of the youth together and just teaches them acting, singing, dancing, the whole nine. And so we got to do Grease is the Word, which was like a black rendition of Grease. And that was like my first kind of big scoop into the world of theater. And so, yeah, my whole high school experience was just really like opening myself up to just being able to have the mindset to move through different spaces.
So did you guys know early that you wanted to be actors, or was it just those life experiences that kind of pulled you into that?
I'll say I started, so I actually started writing. I've been writing since I was 7. I lived in like Detroit. You know, some people say they're from Detroit, but they be like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour out. I'm like, you're not from Detroit. No, I'm from Detroit, and I was raised half of my life on the east side, half of my life on the west side. When I was on the east side, I lived in the Martin Luther King homes, which are projects downtown, and loved my home. Wasn't always a safe place to be out and about, so my mom always had us inside the house to protect us. And so with that, I'm the oldest of 9 kids.
Oh wow!
Yes, indeed.
I'm one of 6, so we out here.
You understand, big families. But at that time, you know, I really wasn't outside playing with friends. So what I had was my mom and dad's Dell computer. Had a big old Dell computer, and I would just get on there and just type. And I just thought I was just, you know, writing short stories. You know, we had books in the house and children's books that we read, but it wasn't until years afterwards that I saw that, I was giving each character lines. I was actually writing plays, but just thought I was just writing a story, which plays are stories, but it was so specific. And so I had always saw myself as a writer. And I was bullied when I was younger, as I'm sure a lot of us were. And so for me, being dark-skinned, and I wasn't as big-boned as I am now when I was younger, but I still was like bigger than most. And I was bullied, so my mind, I kid you not, was always, actors are pretty, so I'm gonna be behind, and not that writers aren't pretty or directors or anybody behind the table, or you know, whether film or TV or theater isn't beautiful, but in my mind it was always, I'm not what's seemingly attractive to my peers at that time, so I may as well be a writer. And so as I continued to grow older, I got into high school, and MC Marilyn McCormick, you hear me talk about her a lot. She had a big, profound impact on me. But I remember I was telling her, I would love to write a play for the theater department. And she was like, well, you know, a lot of great writers are, you know, those who understand the acting side of it. So why not audition? And I was like, okay. And inside, I had always wanted to be.
Right.
I always wanted to be an actor, but I just didn't believe like no one would want to see me. That I would just be the writer or just be the director. So once I auditioned, it was such a vulnerable experience and scary experience, but also it was freeing. It felt like home. Like the first time I walked into a black box theater and saw that, you know, my first 2 years of high school I was not popular. I wasn't really out there. I would take my lunch at lunchtime and go up to the computer lab and write, because I was just like, I don't know where I fit in down there. I don't know if I even fit in. But there was a time that I went into the black box, and all these other kids are singing Paramore and singing Big Sean and Ariana and Whitney and you know, show tunes, and I was like, y'all are weird like me. Oh, I like this. This feels good. And so that's how I kind of like got in it from there. But yeah.
You found your safe space.
Yes, I did. Yeah. God is good. God allowed me to find it, I feel, because it was always weaving through. There was always signs coming up. But I was like, no, I'll just write. I'll write. I'm better with that. But when something is for you, not even you can block it. Not even you can, you know, it's really about accepting the call. And once I accepted it, it's like everything started, it was a snowball effect. Everything was like, yeah, this is where you belong. It don't mean it's easy. It don't mean you won't go through struggles or that everybody is going to be good people. But what it does mean is that that's where you belong. And, you know, purpose goes beyond comfortability. You know?
Yeah, something that Dr. Darla and I talk about in Therapeutic Spaces, which is a cohort with artists that we kind of pour into a professional development, artistry development, and group therapy, that I saw come up in both of the cohorts, was like, all it really takes is one person to believe in you and push you forward.
Oh my God.
And I hear that from a lot of artists that, like, they felt this thing inside of them and they wanted to move towards it, but until this one person confirmed it for them or like pushed them forward, they didn't really take that step. But once they did, they just immediately started walking in their purpose. So like, shout out to
MC.
Yes, shout out to MC, because she sounds like she was that person for
She's
you.
amazing. And I remember like she would have all these black and brown kids laying on the floor, you know, doing the theater thing, he knows, on the floor. And she'd say this thing. She'd say, I'm going to say some words or some phrases, and I want you to repeat it. And one of the phrases was, I am enough. We on this floor, we're like, I am enough. And I remember I was 16, like, what is this? I'm enough for what? What does that mean? But little did I know, she was planting a seed that didn't make sense at that time. But it wasn't until I got in grad school, where I questioned if I was enough, where I started to get therapy and realized, what I thought was an insecurity was really like, I don't believe I'm enough. But if I'm not believing that, let me go back to the fact that she was planting that. She had me saying it. Power of the tongue. It has the power to speak life or death. I was saying I am enough. So though I wasn't even registering that I was speaking and affirming myself at that time, it came
Your
later
body,
where I was
your
like,
mind knew.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's also what she did. She allowed theater to be that safe place, but also an affirming place for these black kids who felt sheltered from their family or felt different or felt weird, and we, you know, that has a lot to do with Fat Ham. But yeah, so she did a lot.
Thank you for sharing that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So tell us about your characters in the play. Either one of you could go first.
Okay, I'll tell you about my play,
Yes.
my character. So the play is an adaptation of Hamlet. And so there's a character in Hamlet called Horatio. And so Tio is, in essence, inspired by Horatio. And so Horatio actually sees the ghost of Hamlet's father in the play Hamlet. And so in this version of Fat Ham, Horatio sees Juicy's father, the ghost of Pap, appeared. And so he's Juicy's cousin. He's an older cousin who has kind of already transpired through like that really turbulent time of trying to figure out who you are in the world as a young person. And so he's really kind of like a big brother in essence to Juicy.
Like his old head.
Exactly. But they're really close in age. Tio's really free-spirited, free-minded, really ambitious, really intelligent, really connected to the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say that.
He's had a lot of the play too,
I'm
right?
sorry?
That's what I said. You bring up being like in some of the scenes when we're watching the scenes. You talk about like smoking
No, in
and
every
like
scene.
in every scene, in every
I talk
scene.
about smoking.
So like it's just like the old head on the block that's like be smoking, but telling everybody in the community stories and like things that they've been through. I feel like we all have that person and can relate.
Yes, indeed.
Right.
Relate to that person. So it seemed like it was very like Big Brother-esque
Yes.
in the play.
Yes.
So.
And he mentions a lot about inherited trauma and about the fact that he goes and sees his therapist. And he tries to impart some of his knowledge on Juicy.
Yes.
And so, it's all there for sure.
Awesome. And
Yes.
I was gonna say Juicy.
Yes. Well, you can call me Juicy, yes. And yes, so Juicy's inspired by the Hamlet character of the play Hamlet. And I'll say that Juicy is, in his early 20s, black, queer, very pensive, very deep in thought. He's just lost his father, and he's trying to find his way with that. And his mother has now just married his uncle. And in the story of Hamlet, the king dies. Hamlet's father's ghost comes to Horatio, tells him, pretty much makes contact. And then Horatio's like, "Hey, Hamlet, I just saw your daddy." And I'm like, "What? What do you mean?"
As a ghost.
You're right. I have to see this. And then my father's ghost says, "Your uncle had me killed, and now my uncle is with my mother." And so, throughout Hamlet and throughout, of course, Fat Ham, Juicy Hamlet is trying to find out, one, did it really happen? And if it did really happen, what does that mean? Because it's only been a week that I've lost my father, and now already my mother has married my uncle. Now going back into Hamlet terms, right? At that time, Hamlet was away at school, so the queen needs another king to step up. So she had to find the uncle. I mean, that's usually that's like the next choice. But within this, it's like, did my mother have anything to do with it? What does this mean? Just losing a parent, losing anyone close to you, and especially losing a parent and losing a father. It's something about that where you have to step up to a mantle and grab a baton that you may not feel that you're ready for. And so grappling with that and trying to find out, like, okay, who am I? And also being someone who is queer, who is thick or big boned or what have you, and what that comes with of growing up being othered and being labeled as weird. And so throughout this play, he's trying to come to terms with himself while also asking himself, can I really do this? And his father was like, yes, you can. You're just like me. And so that breaks down into so many things within culture, black culture, being like your father, not wanting to be like your father or your mother and what have you. And so it's Juicy, finding his way through that and really seeing, like, can he do this? Will he do this? Does he have to do this? And what does that mean for him to come into who he is? Though I am my mother and my father's son, who am I? Who am I separate from that? And yeah, it's a beautiful ride. Everybody in the cast is beautiful. Everybody holds space for each other. This play, James Imes, he wrote it. He is a master of a writer. Everybody holds space for each other. This play can go, as you saw, it can go from comedy to drama on the switch of a dime. Can go from such light places to such dark places. And to be able to do work like that, I believe it's important that we should do it. But you need to be held well, like right. The space. You need a great director, which Montez Freeland, our director, he's amazing. He held this space in a way that is masterful, that was therapeutic. He allowed us to, he had his vision, but he also allowed us to bring ourselves to it. That's why he hired us.
Love that.
And it shows. And everybody it's iron sharpens iron in that room. Everybody just wants everybody to win, wants everyone to be in their bag. You know what I'm saying? And I love it. It's beautiful.
What did those spaces look like that were created, that were therapeutic, that felt safe to you? Like, what does that look like in your setting as an actor?
I think it's mainly, I'll go to the opposite end of what I have not, when I've not experienced that.
Okay.
And that's been, okay, we're dealing with this subject matter, and the director or the stage manager, so whoever is in the space, doesn't have a good grip on it. So if I'm doing a show where sexual assault is happening on stage, or death is happening on stage, especially Black death, it's not reading the room. You know, to ask your actors to do that. We're actors, that's our job, but also we're human. We're human first. So I've been in spaces before where the director went over their head. All right, I want to keep going, but the actors are triggered or going through it, you know? And it's like, Montez held a space where he knows these characters so well. He's read this play so many times, and he is an actor himself. So he knows what it takes to get to these places. So he's not necessarily saying, treating us in a precious way, but it's gentle. It's
without being like patronizing.
Yeah, it's like, we're gonna go to these places. If you can't get there today, let me know. I'm here for you. And our stage management crew,
Boundaries.
both are white women who held us down and holds us down. And so that's also another thing, right? They held the space to be like, what do you need?
It sounds like, I'm thinking of so many things, like as you're both talking, it sounds like a lot of your lived experiences and their lived experiences really showed up in the characters.
Yes,
and,
indeed.
On stage. Yeah. And I think I'm wondering what does that look like, you know, for you, because you can't, clearly I'm not an actor, but we all put on a face when we go out in the world every day. And like, what does that look like? What does it feel like? How did you bring yourself on stage and really immerse yourself in these characters, you know, as it relates to mental health? We all have a mental health that we have to sustain, and like, how does that show up? Like, I could feel this, what both of you are talking about, like in my body right now. It's super powerful. So like, how did you show up? How did you bring your true, authentic, lived experience, your real self on stage, like into the character?
I think it's like the freedom to just be, stand-up comedy, right? It's a very vulnerable place to be, and every actor isn't a stand-up comedian, right? And so in undergrad, I was really trained to kind of keep those two worlds separate, and to really not bring my stand-up comedy into the theater space. And so for this play, there's this long monologue that I have that's like 4 pages. And I never considered doing it as a stand-up piece. I always just considered doing it like a monologue, doing it as an actor would. But Montez, in the way that he held that space and allows you to bring yourself to the character and bring yourself to the room in a way, had his mind open and was like, let's try this as a stand-up piece. And I was like, okay. So we tried it, and it turned out so like
brilliant,
fulfilling.
He's trying to be humble.
It really turned out to be something really special. And to be able to bring my stand-up training to my acting training is like worthwhile. And I think holding that space is kind of like what could come from that. But yes, the freedom to say the things, do the things, you know, be the self on stage.
Yes, indeed.
And you know, sometimes I get tired of being myself. On the bad days, you're like, I would rather be somebody else today. And so we get to do that. We get to actually say, okay, I'm not gonna be myself for these next couple hours. I'm gonna actually pretend to be someone else, which the body begins to believe. And so it's really free to be able to kind of like morph in a way.
How did you get ready for that character? Like, was there something you were thinking in your mind, or a specific person, or some thoughts that helped you get into that space mentally?
For sure, for sure. This character was probably the closest character I've ever played to somebody who's just like myself.
Oh, wow.
And so the distance between me and Tio was like, there was like none. And I really could relate him to a lot of my friends, a lot of my best friends, the way that they think and the way that they feel. And so really it was a matter of bringing them on stage, which was like a pleasure, a complete pleasure. And I mean, luckily I don't have to carry any of the heavy weight of doing any of the emotional scenes. I'm completely the comic relief. And so it was really a matter of like making myself more comfortable, being more silly, or just being more funny, for lack of a better term. So yeah, it was like a no-brainer.
Okay.
Literally a no-brainer. James has written characters that are so relatable.
Yes.
And within every character, you know, you will see yourself, you will see your family members, the cousin, the mom, the dad, the whole nine. So it was easy.
I know you mentioned a lot of things that I feel like I saw on stage. Like, you said that you have been bullied before, and people had like said things about like your image, and then you see those specific examples in the play. I mean, would she say you're thicker than a bowl of oatmeal?
Oh, yes.
The guys were calling you soft and emotional and sissy. So tell me how like you brought yourself into that character, and what pieces of you did you bring, and how you guys
Yes, quite similar to Jordan. When I read this role, you read many scripts. I thank God that I get to read many scripts. You read many scripts, and like he said, you always, you know, even a character that's so far from you, our job as actors are to be empathizers. You know, because we can't judge the character, even if they're the most evil. Like, I have to figure out how to play you and make you human. You know, make you complex. So I have to put myself in your shoes of sorts. This show, it was like there were already my shoes on the script. I kept reading it, and it was quite like, I talk about Moonlight, the movie, a lot. It's my favorite movie. I love it. Yeah, my gosh, I love it. It's my screensaver. I love that movie. But when I watched Moonlight, I remember I was watching the previews, and you know, it was very ambiguous. You know, you knew like it was black folk, it was maybe queer, we'll see. And I remember I was like, well, let me go watch it. I watched it alone, and from the first 3 minutes, I'm crying. And I'm like, who wrote this? I'm like,
looking up the cast and everything.
Yes, I'm like, Terrell Alvin McCraney and Barry Jenkins, who are you? And have you had cameras in my life? Do you know who I am? How did you, but like, I had never seen anything like that before, where I didn't have to remove myself too far. You know, I watched a lot of like, you know, the Spike Lee joints and like a lot of the beautiful black cinema that I can always, you know, find myself in, because though we're not a monolith, you know, we're very connected spiritually. But that was a film where I was like, I really don't have to go anywhere outside of myself to see myself in this. Like, that's me. Chiron is me. Juicy is me. When I read this in a Starbucks, crying, laughing, screaming. And I know people around me was like, what is he going through? What is he reading? Because I just was like, I couldn't stop. There's so much of me in this. I know what it's like to lose a parent. I lost my father back in 2015. Thank you. You know, and so it's like reading that, and that he's having these conversations with his dad. I've had conversations with my father in the spirit, in my dreams. And so I'm like, okay, God. Then being in love with men who want to be themselves, but the world is shooting them, and they can't really be that. And you know, the complexities that come with that as a queer black man, loving other queer black men who may not be out, who may be closeted, who may be down low or what have you, and how much of just a resistance and just a trying time that can be. And so I'm reading like, okay, James, who are you? The relationship with his mother. And what does that mean to have this matriarch in your life that is trying to find her way as well, but maybe isn't doing it in a way that you may agree with. And just that journey, and with me and my mom, like, it's been such a beautiful journey of us coming to where we are now within our relationship, and her accepting me. And so just reading the show, I'm like, okay, like, what's going on? I have T.O.s in my life. T.O. came and saw the show yesterday, who was in my family, And so it's like, okay, God, like, whoa. And with the bullying, yes, I know how it is to be called weird, be called soft, be called too sensitive. And, I'm still grappling with reclaiming my time, reclaiming myself in that sense. But Juicy allows me to live on purpose in my most authentic self, in my most feminine self, in my most masculine self, in my most confident self, in my most messy self, because Juicy isn't perfect. None of us are. He does some things in this show that are questionable. He's human. He's complex. We're complex. And so I think that's what I saw with this. Like, there is so much in this, so much of me in this, that doing this show is like, it's revolutionary, it's radical, it's like daily therapy for me, and it's very spiritual, because it's just like going on this journey of kind of being this person who, and Juicy claims himself, he isn't like, I don't want to be this, but it's what everybody else is viewed towards him, or everybody else is calling me this. But by the end of the show, he's like, this is me. We're all in a sense like, this is me, and I don't want to be anything else. And that's allowed Brandon to go, yeah, this is you. Let this show, I'm telling you again, spiritual practice. When these shows come in our life, just like when opportunities come in your life, or different clients come into your life, when it's aligned, it goes beyond your job. It goes to a place. You transcend and the audience transcends. And that's when you have a script that is as good as it is, a director that is as caring as he is, and a cast that is as giving as they are. It is like church. You transcend. We are saying a word up there, a couple of words up there. And so, and also with the church element in this, I'm a minister. Having one of the characters, Rabbi, who was a church goer, who, is judgmental at times, but also she's complex within her view. I've had that in my life. So yeah, it's wild. Every day, folks ask me like, how does it feel? I'm like, I don't know how to say it because I'm so present in it. And it's so close to home, and it's still over there. You have to, because you got to have a line with the characters, because you don't want to I can't help but to bring Juicy home, but I can't always bring him home.
Yeah.
I gotta let him be where he is, because he does go on a journey that, I've been on before with grappling with losing a parent and like, I'm on a different side of grieving. Like, he just lost his father 1 week ago. I lost my father like a couple years ago. So in my grieving process, I'm at a different place, but it allows me to go back to those feelings and open and bloom, as the character Opal says. It allows me to bloom, and it's beautiful.
Is there a specific line that resonates with you guys that you had to speak on in the play, or one that maybe another character said in the play?
This play is so funny.
Yeah.
So really all the funny lines come to mind first.
Yeah.
But in terms of like real,
It doesn't have to be real. It could be funny. It could be just something that resonates with you, because you said your character resonates because it's very closely you. And
for sure.
So yeah,
I loved when you said a bowl of oatmeal, and I'm over here like, I like thick oatmeal.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't want no watered down oat milk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a beautiful scene between the character Juicy and his mother. Where and just speaking on that real quick, having a mom talk to her queer son
About how to keep a man.
Love
A black
that scene.
mother talking to her black gay son, queer son, because we don't know if Juicy's gay, black queer son, about how to keep a man. When have you seen that?
Right.
When does that happen?
And just
You know
so-
what I'm saying? To have that acceptance of like, and she says, you know, and she don't always got the right thing to say. You know, there's a point in the show where she's like, oh, so you're not a whole punk, just a half punk. And my character's like, what? She's like, they just words. And I'm like, well, yeah, for you. But she's like, I'm not judging you. And I think that's also going towards how much grace we can give to some family members and some people in our life that may not always have the right terms.
Right.
But it's not about them having the right terms. It's about where their heart is and are they willing to meet you where you are. And so now she's giving this speech about like, oh baby, well don't worry, you gonna get a man one day. You thick, you got this, and like doing that scene is so wild because it's like I've never experienced that in any show that I've ever seen. Anytime it's a black mother with her gay son, it's I need to pray that away. I need you need to go back. You need to date a
It has
woman.
like a
you need
negative connotation
yes.
to it,
And so
yeah.
here it is. It's acceptance, and maybe it's not what Juicy intended. And yes, it makes him uncomfortable, but not all uncomfortable things are bad. You know. But speaking on a line, he has a line in which
Okay.
he says, choosing pleasure over pain. What if you imagine the world different? I'm telling you, when you see the show, his monologue wraps up everything in this show. That yes, they out there, the audience out there, the audiences of your world are going to view you as this. So you're a black woman, you must be this. You're a black woman, you must be this. You're a black man, you must be this. You're a black queer man, you must be this. But what happens if you can imagine it differently? And what's the line again? Watch how to make yourself feel miserable just to make someone else happy.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
That line and how he delivers it. Because the monologue is hilarious, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but please come see it.
But when it gets to that point, and Brandon has taken that with him, and I tell you that every day because of how you deliver it, and of course how it's written, of reimagining your life. It doesn't have to be like that. Yes, that's how Granddaddy did it, great granddaddy and grandmama and auntie and so, but you get to reimagine. You get to. It feels like it may be a chore because you may be othered, because you're choosing a different path, but be othered and choose happiness, choose peace.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's you hit it right on the mark. That's beautifully said. It would be the whole monologue for me, and just how Tio kind of gives access to this world from kind of like the outside looking in. He's not specified in the script as related. So he's kind of like just a friend of the family in some ways. And so he really gets to watch Juicy and watch what's going on with his uncle and with his dad and with his mom, and kind of knowing how all those pieces work together. He's able to kind of like, offer advice to Juicy and just offer some kind of empathy for Juicy. And so the monologue really encapsulates all of that together, just like you said. So.
And it seems like your character, we kind of touched on it before, but like is like in the process of like healing. Like they talk about going to therapy and generational trauma and just like using these like terms that you learn as you're kind of like processing things and going through things. So that makes sense that it's like transferred over to like other characters in that space as well. It's like when you're healing, you kind of like innately start to heal other people because you start to share those tools and that information with people around you just through conversation, not even purposely. It's just like it's radiating from you, so it just kind of comes out.
Yeah, that's a journey to like self-actualization. I'm just over here thinking
showing up for yourself and really being able to assess your own mental health, because mental health doesn't always have to be like we're sick.
Right.
We all have a mental. We all have this psyche that we're managing and trying to navigate, you know, throughout our lives. But allowing yourselves to show up in the characters in that way, I think that that's pretty powerful. And then narrating that and allowing people in the audience to see themselves in you. You know, how the character that you're portraying, and like, what does that look like? And how do I identify with that? And just thinking about self-actualization, you know, I think subconsciously we all have this idea that, oh, this is like the journey that we're on. That this is the journey that the characters are on. And oh, when we reach that, you know, maybe life is over. But like, what if life didn't have to be over?
Yeah.
Or we looked for that joy.
Yes.
You know, or we kind of got to assess life and show up differently.
Yeah.
Whether it's ourselves or whether it's a character.
Yes.
You know, I think that is super powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Super powerful. Like, I don't want to self-actualize and then die.
No.
Right.
I want to self-actualize. I really want to assess.
And then be able to get to walk in it.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
walking your
that.
purpose and walking this. Like, it's rewriting your narrative.
Yes, that's such a huge point of the show.
Yeah.
To rewrite what they think or what other, because so much is compared to what do they think? What does he think? What does she think? And it's scary because, you know, we are like people who need connection and are in communities. And it's scary to be lonely, to be alone. It's scary sometimes when you're like in a friend group and you're like, actually, I don't like this. And so what does that mean for me? Now, I feel like your higher self is like, yes, get away from them. You got
Immediately.
You got some folks over here. You know what I'm saying? But in that moment, you're like, this is all I knew. And I think that's a huge thing with Black folks is that we're like, this is all I know. Whether it's negative or detrimental to us, or I don't want to even say negative, but unhealthy to us, we're like, but this is all I know.
Or I don't know when this next opportunity is going to come along, so let me cling to this thing instead of making room for the new.
Yes, let me cling to these friends, this partner, this idea, this job, because that's exactly. But it's also like, that's why you work on yourself, and that's something I've been learning. Like, because, you know, sometimes we're like, okay, I'm getting like a Tio. I'm getting here. Come on. But not everybody's ready.
Divine timing.
In divine timing. Sometimes it is like Tio plants that seed. Sometimes it just, a seed needs to be planted. Because even at that time when he's talking to me about generational trauma, I'm like overwhelmed, but he's like, but you don't have to let it define you. Like, and I think it goes back to Moonlight where the young boy.
Love that movie.
But I remember in Moonlight, the young boy is Chiron. He's like, am I gay? Like I don't know. Like, what does the F word mean? Like what am I? And this older black man, straight black man, that's in a straight partnership is like, you'll know when you know.
You'll know when you know. You don't have to know that now. And it's something about like, you can receive this knowledge and receive this affirmation or what have you and not need to solve it right now.
Or just fully understand it.
Yes.
It's like when you're walking in your purpose, a lot of that is just like having faith.
Yes.
And the reassurance is the alignment.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on the right path because I got this character and it feels right. It feels like this is what I'm supposed to be doing in these moments. It feels like this opportunity didn't just coincidentally come by. That gets to align something that you're in love with, which is comedy and acting, and you get to like really walk in that and have a hand in like how things are really set up in the rendition of like your character. Like that's not a coincidence that you liked comedy and acting and you want to put that together. And here is this director that's like, let me give you the safe space to explore that or to put your own spin or thing on it. So yeah, that's all. What did you say? Divine timing? Okay, I just wanted to say it louder for the people. So speaking of that, you talked about like being alone, and I know that in the play that's something that the mom talks about. She's like, I don't want to be alone. Like, I'm not built to be alone.
Yes. She needs noise.
And I think Ophelia asked, or no, you asked, are you happy? And she's like, what's happy? What even is that?
Yeah.
I just don't want to be alone.
Yes.
Let's just like start there. And it's just like the perfect example of that. Like, I'm gonna cling to what the norm is and what I know is like comfortable, instead of walking in maybe like a season of singleness, and just trying to find yourself. It was just immediate. I mean, when you say hop into another relationship, it was a week.
Yes.
I don't know how much faster you could really
Yes.
you can get with that, especially, I mean, it was the uncle, so he's close to home, but anyways.
But even like she says, you know, I went from my daddy's house to my husband's house. Like, that's all I know. And who did she learn it from? She probably learned it from her mama that went from her daddy's house to her husband's
So she's
house.
never had a season of singleness. You don't even know what that looks like.
Or just and just that self-liberation of being in love with self, growing in love with self. Like that's just as a person who's experiencing that, it is scary because not that many people can relate. You can't,
Truly,
you know.
we're not given the space
Yeah.
to even understand what true liberation is.
Yes.
We are stuck in this mindset.
That's
Oh,
facts.
you have to do these things,
Yes.
and you have to walk in this path and do what I said,
Yes.
and do what I'm showing you that I'm not really saying.
Yes.
And that's what we know.
Yes.
You are so right.
I
We
think
don't
religion
do
got a
that.
lot to do with that too.
Yeah.
Like you know what I'm saying? Like where's your husband? Where's your wife? Where's the kids? But it's like you're writing that story for me. And if I'm being empathetic, you're probably writing that story because you made that your story.
Or it's been passed down.
Exact
It's just a
generations,
constant
you know?
cycle. Like how you said your mom was just like, oh, in the scene, she's making her man a plate. He's like,
This is how you keep the man.
can't make your own plate. And there's been a lot of times where like I've thought that, but it's like her mom's mom was probably like, this is how you keep a man. These are the things you're supposed to do. So it was just like a regurgitated reaction, and that's just what's passed down. So speaking of spending time alone and singleness, like while you're out here on the road, how do y'all deal with being alone? How do y'all, like, what do you do to take care of yourself while you're just because you're on the road, you're going from Pittsburgh to Arkansas,
Right.
and then you're going back to your home. So there's probably these high highs and these low lows.
Yeah.
You're traveling around, you're like this excitement, and then I'm sure when you go home, like me as an artist, like I'll have these big events, and then afterwards, I used to get real sad, and I never knew why. I was like, I should be happy right now. I just threw this big event. The whole city came. I was like, this is beautiful. You know, people showed up. I know that people came for both of you that drove from different states to come and see you. So that's probably like a crazy feeling of like just support and love. So like, how do you guys go through those like waves of emotions like while you're out here on the road, and then also when you get back home?
For me, is I'm always kind of in a state of like, I'm with myself, and I don't know if that's a great thing or like a not so great thing. I think it may keep me from being present at some points, but I'm really kind of always kind of just with self. Social media also is just like a huge way to just have access to connecting with people, posting things, commenting on other people's life, you know, milestones. You know, I don't necessarily, I mean, maybe I just got used to it.
Being alone?
Being away, kind of away. Like,
Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily say alone, just away.
Okay.
Because there are people everywhere.
Yeah,
and like really, I only need to talk to like a couple of people. My mom. Gotta talk to my mom.
Yeah.
Probably like 2 other people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I'm good. What more do I really need? The job that we do kind of is taxing. It's a social job. You're constantly connecting with people. Even if you're faking it, even if you don't like these people necessarily, or you're having a bad day, you're constantly like, okay, I have to go talk to these people. So my alone time, I value a lot.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh God, I need to just sit here. we like. So yeah, I don't think it's something that like I necessarily struggle with in that way.
Well, not struggle, but like how does that even help to like you said, like you value your alone time, so that comes with setting boundaries to create that alone time for yourself. Like what does that do for you? Like you having that alone time to probably, I'm assuming, restore or just like sit with yourself a lot. Like what does that do for you? How does it recharge you in some type of way? Like talk about that a little more.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does recharge me. It just gives me the opportunity to kind of like have those conversations with myself, within myself, about those big questions that I have about what I want to do. What I want to do. What do I want to do? Yeah. Like literally. Yeah. So, something as simple as that. We talk a lot about rest, just resting the body, resting the mind.
How important that is.
And how important that is. So,
because artists just think like, I'm never gonna rest, I'm never gonna do this, I'm never gonna like, I have to keep going.
To think, we are conditioned to think it's this or this.
Right.
But it could be this and this.
Right.
Yes,
I work, I go hard, I live in my purpose, I walk in my purpose, and I can chill and rest and relax and sleep. And rest doesn't have to just be I took a nap.
That's
it
right.
can be all these other things. We can have community and be communal and sit with self.
Yes. God rested, why can't we?
Yeah, and I love Dr. Dollar's Instagram. Just shout out to you and your Instagram curation. Look, you got nervous when I said it. You said, what post you found it talking about?
Yeah.
No, you posted something the other day and it was like, whatever you asked me today, the answer's gonna be no. And I was just like, why did I never think of that? You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to just have a no day.
Yes.
Like, no. Not us all saying yes to the no day.
No, you're right.
In accordance. Everybody all together now.
Yeah.
No, but like that just like, it really spoke to me because I feel like as artists and as creators, especially being in like a network with other artists, like we want to support each other. Yeah. And even when it's a no, sometimes like we're like, you know what? Because I can relate to what you're going through so much in this moment, I'm going to change my no into it, yes. But then like there's so many effects to that. Like I'm gonna let you answer the question about singleness and loneliness, but like I want to also talk about like what does that look like when we compromise on our boundaries and we say yes when it should be a no, and how that affects our artistry and not being able to restore or pour into ourselves how we want to.
I feel like what I've noticed as I've gotten older.
Not being funny.
It's because I'm like, as I've gotten older, like, oh wow, we're here.
How old are you for the people out there talking about he getting older?
28.
Okay, right. As you get into your...
As I'm getting older, I'm like, wow.
A geriatric therapist.
Okay, sorry, as you're getting older.
No, I noticed that like, I can't bring myself to the room as well if I don't take my own time.
Yes.
And I'll begin to like damage relationships and damage reputation. People be like, damn, I didn't know he could be like that. Or I didn't know he could be so like quiet or standoffish. Even it may not be he's like over there like punching walls or something, but just like you just want to bring your best self at all times. And so if I'm like not able to do that at the expense of like doing too much, then that's like ultimately defeating the purpose completely.
Right, because then you're just doing stuff.
Then you're just doing stuff, and you will get tired, and you will pass out.
Not pass out.
No, you'll die if you if you keep going. If you
but that is
going, your social battery, you will just you'll lose it. You'll lose it. You know, but like it's also necessary though, because if you're by yourself too long, you'll lose it.
Balance.
You'll lose it. Balance
is the thing.
You know, and like being aware of like where that spectrum is for you, because the spectrum changes day to day.
Yeah.
This day you may be able to, you know, like, I could do this, but another day you may be like, damn, I'm in a season where X, Y, Z. So
We human. It changes.
Right.
It changes. And I think it's just like, that's what the pandemic taught me, and also grad school, because I remember I got in, if y'all don't know about acting grad schools, like boot camp for actors, yeah?
Absolutely.
Yes, it's like going. And it's also, in a way, very therapeutic, because you cannot run from the character. If you are, you're faking, you're acting. You know, you have to be, so it's like that character needs all of you. So if you tired on that day, that character's tired. If you're going through it on a day, that character's going through it. My teacher would say, start from where you are and let yourself be changed. You have to bring yourself to it. You must, especially with acting. Now, right, maybe other jobs, yeah, you could be like, oh no, yeah, y'all, I'ma just, and period. But acting, you cannot do that. We are on this stage together.
Yes.
And if I'm not giving my present self to him, it ain't gotta be perfect. I'm gonna be respectful. I'm gonna make sure to show up as my best self, most professional self. But, and I think it's also communicating. Like I told the cast, I told the director, if I come in, you ask me how I'm doing, and I say I'm here, that means I may be going through something, but I'm here. I didn't stay at home. I was well enough to come to rehearsal, well enough to come and show up. I may not be as socially interactive as I usually am, but I'm here. And I think that's respectful, because it's like, I don't want to fake. I don't want to act like I'm good when I'm not, because I don't want you to do that, because that's we do that too much. And here, can it just be a safe place? And if it ain't a safe place, I'll make it a safe place. And I'm not afraid to get my headphones, and that's where I need to be, because that's where I need to be. You don't want me to be a robot. You want me to be a human, right? You want me to be honest. And I'm not gonna, dump all my trauma or whatever I'm going through on you. But also at the same time, I must show up, as he said, present. I must show up as myself. And I must have those boundaries. And that's something during the pandemic, I was so in the grad school, okay, we gotta work. I'm an actor, I gotta work. Because if I don't work, I'm not gonna get the gig. If I don't do it, there is a balance. You need to rest, because burnout is crazy. Imagine getting the thing you prayed for and you're burnt out.
Right.
You're not even enjoying it, because,
Have you experienced that before?
Yes,
I have.
many times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
What's
it's crazy.
What's that look like? What's that feel like?
It feels like getting the thing that you prayed for, getting this amazing opportunity, but not enjoying it. You're showing up every day like, I gotta do this, instead of I get to do this. That's the difference. Resentment. It's like, oh well, and being there, and after finishing the gig or finishing the job, and afterwards sitting with myself, I was like, I don't want to go through that again. Because that actually was a cool gig, and those were cool people, and I didn't let myself enjoy it because I was trying to be the perfect person all the time, or always be on, and that's unfair to myself. Like, I need to show up as I am, and going off of what we were saying earlier, healing yourself to heal other people. When you do that, you liberate other people to go, yeah, actually, I'm gonna follow suit. I'm not gonna always be joyful every day. I'm not gonna be an asshole. I'm not gonna be rude, because I don't tolerate that. But what that does mean is that you're not gonna always get an extroverted version. You're not gonna always get an introverted version. I am a spirit. I am a human. I'm not gonna be the same every day. My spirit will be consistent. I'm always gonna love the work that we do, even if it's a hard day. I still love the work.
Yeah.
I'm always gonna respect the people that's around me and do my best. And also, I'm human. Like, I'm not gonna always reach it. And that's something that our director, when he was in the space, he was like, I will hold you all accountable. Please hold me accountable. If I say something and you're like, Monte, he's like, I'm not free of being approached and being challenged in that way. And I think that's beautiful to exist in this world like that. And just real quick, off of the alone, when I was going through the pandemic, I was living alone. I was in and out. Now let me tell you something.
Okay.
At that time, I had a roommate at the time, and he was moving out, and at the beginning to go with his family. And I remember going to God like, God, I don't like being alone. Why are you doing this? Come on.
Come on.
Right.
So many of my peers had partners that they were with. It was caked up during the pandemic. And I'm
Posting
like,
their little
you know what I'm
videos.
saying? Hey y'all, we in the bed, we on Zoom.
We got a dog. We got a cat.
And I'm like, man, my family's together, and I'm like, I don't like this. And I remember I talked to my friend's mom, who's a minister, and she said, baby, she's like, there's a lot of people out here who is with their spouse that they don't like, with their kids that they don't like.
And they not with them no more.
And well,
Oh, sorry.
and she was like, I think you're going to, later on, you're going to enjoy being alone. And I was like, what? I'm like, what do you mean? And it wasn't until I was getting used to it, and it was hard. But what it did was it brought up the things, what those fears were. And I'm still growing with this and learning with this, but when these fears come up, I'm like, God, I don't want to, but it's like, no, look at them. Allow. I think that's, going off of the highs and the lows. It's not, don't ignore it. Don't ignore the low, like be in it, sit in it. I've been letting myself, yes, this is uncomfortable. And I talk to myself like I'm talking to young me in here. Yes, I know, but be here. Yes, why is it uncomfortable? I don't like being alone. Well, you're not really alone. You can call somebody. I know, but what if it's weird? Okay, let it be weird. Okay, call them. Are you? It's always checking in, and I learned this throughout the pandemic. So it allowed me now, when I am alone, I realize I'm actually not alone. I'm lonely. And that's okay. And also, I think what that did was it triggered how I felt when I was younger, how I can be in a room full of love, room full of family, room full of friends, and feel alone and feel other. And I didn't want to deal with that. But it's like, hey, that's gonna happen a lot in this industry. You go be in rooms where everybody is, dolled up to the nines, but a lot of people ain't authentic. So get used to it. Get used to it. And not that, you're not going to have people who are good people who's going to come into your life. But what that does mean is learn to love to be alone with yourself. And I realized, I didn't really like myself. That's why I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to be with myself. I didn't want to be, I didn't like this person. So it also allowed me to learn to love and fall in love with myself. And be like, why don't you like? Okay, yes, that's maybe that's a trait or a flaw that we don't like, but that's you. There's something about radical acceptance. That's you, though. You can change, but stop running away from yourself. Stop running away from who you are. And with that, it allows me now, when I'm experiencing the highs and the lows, or when I am alone, I'm like, but it's always a check-in. It's always, okay, but why are you feeling this way? Right. And even if it's like, well, they going out. Don't feel peer pressure. Do you want to stay in the house? Yeah. Stay in the house.
Facts.
Stay. You don't have to do anything. You really, even with family like, well, we about to check in. How you doing? I actually don't want to go out, y'all. I don't. And the fear is, well, what you don't love us no more, or what you don't, or why you? It's the fear, but
the reaction.
But but you have to learn that. And I would say, if somebody's experiencing that, let yourself experience it. Let yourself go through it. I pray that whatever resources that you may be able to find, that you Google, free therapy around you, that you if you pray, stay prayed up. But it's something beautiful about being with yourself, about radically being like, no, I'm going to sit with these emotions, because at the end of the day, whether I have a man or not, have a woman, have a partner or not, with a bunch of friends doing the job that I love, I'm gonna go home with this person, with these feelings and with this self. And if I don't learn to love it, I can't teach anyone else to love it. Like, we teach people how to love us. And if I'm always around you and I'm like, Brandon, how you doing? Oh, I'm good. If it's always that, I'm teaching you that's
how you want to be interactive.
Exactly. And that's not the case. Like, there are some times I'm like, actually, and I've learned to know my love languages. Like, I'm a physical touch person. Okay. So I've told my family, like, hey, if I'm going through it, I may not really need you to give me a pep talk. I may just need a hug. That will do wonders.
I hit up my, listen, I'm quick to be like, hey, I just need a hug. I'm gonna just walk past you.
Yes.
Because a lot of my friends live in the area.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's easy. I was having a bad day the other day. Not a bad day, but I was just like, I couldn't get in the zone.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't get in my space. So I just like, I hit up Tommy and Malik and like all my friends, and I was like, y'all should come co-work with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need to work on my own stuff. I know y'all got stuff to do, but like I just wanted to be in this space. But I also was by myself during COVID. I've never had a roommate which has been interesting, but I grew up with 6 siblings.
Yeah.
So it's like once I had my own space, I was like, mine.
Yes.
This is mine.
Yes.
I finally, I'm not gonna go in my room, my shoes ain't gonna be colored on, and I just bought from the mall to wear anyway. But it was just like, it was a relief, but I felt like during COVID, I think that was the one time that it made me think about it, where it was like, oh, like, I'm really about to be alone, because you can't just like pull up to a friend's crib or whatever.
Go to a bar or go to it. Yeah.
And I think
that needed. Is that needed with
Yes.
the journey to self-actualization?
Yeah.
and it made me feel like, or what it made me do was like step into myself, kind of how you did.
Yes.
And I still kind of do it now.
Same.
But I just talk to myself a lot.
Same.
Like I realized I would be in my house out loud, not in my mind, just like
Having conversations.
yeah, like, okay, sis, it's time to get up. It's time to get up. What do you need? You need a little sermon.
Yeah.
You need to listen to your favorite song. Do you need to go on a run? Like, most of the time, it's just like getting out of the door.
Do you need to
getting
do
to
nothing?
outside? Yeah, or do you need to rest?
Yes.
Do you need to like call a friend, like you
Yes.
said? And it really helps you identify those things. But it also helped me like talk to myself nicer.
Yeah.
Because it was
Yes.
like, now
Yes.
nobody has it. Like if I don't feel like it's right, like you said, in my body, I feel like my intuition and discernment has gotten so
I
much
was just about to say
stronger.
discernment, yep.
Because it's like, okay, like whatever is for, like a prayer I pray all the time. Whatever's for me, like keep that in my life, or bring
Yes.
that into my life, and whatever isn't, then take it out. And it just
Yes.
allows this level of like ease and it like understanding and acceptance and reassurance. So it's not like me holding on to those situations that are a norm for me.
Yeah.
Because I have given everything up. So it's not like I need to, oh, well, what's this? I mean, when I'm in some stuff that I probably shouldn't be in, and, you know, maybe not in the right headspace to help you, I'm like, well, let me just hold on to it for another week or something, and then you can have it.
Yeah. Yes. And there's something about like during the pandemic of like I was so much of like I'm an actor. This is what I do. This is all that I am. And there was something about that being taken. Yes, we were still learning in classes, and thank God that I was able to still do Zoom theater, which was its own thing. But it was like God was like, okay, the thing that you're putting these things on yourself and you're claiming these identities, take that away. You're still enough. You're actually more than enough.
Yeah.
The things didn't give you value, you give them value.
Yes.
And there's something about that just blew my mind, because I was like, I always thought acting was the thing, but no, you were beautiful with acting or without it. You were beautiful with a partner or without it, with a roommate or without it, around your family or not. You are beautiful, you are enough, you are more than enough. Your cup overfloweth because it's you. But also, if you are giving your cup to everybody and you ain't got nothing in your well, you really ain't giving nothing.
And we do that as artists a lot.
Oh my gosh,
like I feel like we're always just, because we want to be nurtured, because I feel like we see a lot of the same things, and like part of what Artist Talk does and what's beautiful is like we work with all these different artists, and I think like there's this thought in our head that because I'm this specific type of artist, like I go through these specific things, like, but we're talking about it now, and I paint, I have a clothing brand, y'all are actors. I go through burnout. I go through like a lot of the same imposter syndrome, or like boundaries, setting boundaries, having balance in your life. Like those are things like we go through as every type of artistry, but when you're in it, it feels like you're alone, and it feels like you're the only one. So that's kind of like how this was all born, and it was through the pandemic. It was artists being lonely,
And
not
are
having
you
a
alone
space.
or set apart? Because there are times where God will set you apart, and that's what I'm getting used to. You know, when they say it's lonely at the top, I'm not above anybody else but my past self. It is lonely at the top. It is lonely with a mind that is operating on health wellness. It is lonely because not that many people, but that don't mean stop. Keep on going. But a lot of times I was like, oh, why are you taking me? I'm setting you apart so I can work on you. I don't need you to be out here right now. There's things going on with the friends you were around and the people you were around that's going to be a negative impact on you. And you told me to do my job, right? You asked me, you prayed. If you want the things you said you prayed for, let me work on you. And I'm gonna bring you over here and I'm gonna set you up. I'm gonna get rid of these things, these self-doubts, self-beliefs. I'm gonna have you love yourself, speak to yourself, talk more nice to yourself. That's something I realized, something my character says in the show. I don't wanna look in mirrors because I'm afraid of what I might see. I know exactly what that feels like. And it took a long time. I remember somebody was like, get in the mirror and say you're beautiful. And I could not do it. I could not. I was like, no, this is arrogant. This is feeling myself too much. I can't do that. And then they were like, no, do it. I'm like, well, the honesty is that I don't believe it. Like, I'm not. So why say something that I don't believe? But it's like, you should be the one to believe it. No, I want a man to believe it. I want him to come into my life and tell me that I'm beautiful. Then I'll believe it.
Yeah.
But what happens when his soul exits? What happens when he's not always around you? And you're operating on him to give you that validation. The validation must come from inside. So there's been a lot of work of get in that mirror and tell yourself, I love you, and I've been passing it on to family. And I'm like, oh, I learned it from them.
My mom used to always say, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And as a child, you're like, right. They got all these sayings. You're like, all these sayings.
And adults,
Yes, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And it could be about anything. I'd be like, oh, those shoes are ugly. She's like, stop saying that. Stop saying, oh, that jacket's ugly. Stop saying that. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But we're the beholder.
Yes.
And it takes all of the growth and introspection and time alone and isolation, because it's not always bad. We equate isolation with
a negative thing.
Yeah.
But it's like beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and we're the beholder of our own beauty, much deeper than everything that we see on the outside or what other people see on the outside. Yeah.
So what are you hearing, Dr. Darla? What are some themes that are popping? What are some things that are popping out?
Man, that is a loaded question, but in a good way. A lot of themes. One, self-actualization. What does it take for us to get there, to grow? What does it look like to be lonely versus alone? What does it look like when we project our own perceptions onto people and not challenge those? What does it look like when we don't rest? And rest is more than just taking a nap. It can be that, but it's much more than that. What's divine timing? What's our journey look like? Oh, I have so many things in my mind. How does acting and artistry, but acting specifically, because that's what we're talking about, how does it really portray how we are as people and how we're navigating this life? Because all four of us and everybody watching could probably pick a movie or a show or a musical or a play that's
that's me.
That's me. That's me. Now I'm embarrassed. Let me cut this TV off. Is it intermission yet? Let me go to the bathroom. But every one of us can pick something where we're like, wow, oh, that song. I can't listen to that. When I'm not at this place with myself, I can't listen to that. Oh, I'm grieving. I can't listen to that because it brings up things that probably we really need to look at, to manage, to assess, but we're not ready. We're not at that place in the journey yet.
In a good and a bad way, though. There's this song Evidence by Naomi, and I don't know what her last name is, but she's basically talking about how God delivered you to this place. Why would he not just keep like providing for you.
You better talk
And
about it.
she's just like, what do you look? You don't look around for evidence. Like, you're in it.
Yeah.
It's this moment. Like, you're here, and it never really hit me until I was about to go teach at a high school, and I listened to it, and I did my full face of makeup and everything. And I just started bawling, crying.
Yes.
I was like, she was like, yeah, like you're walking in it. Like it's right now. And I just started crying. I don't even know what came over me. I was just like, oh my gosh, it's happening.
Yeah.
It's here. Like it's right now.
Yes.
And it was just a crazy feeling. So like both ways, like either you're just not there yet and it's not ready. Or like you're not realizing like what's going on until you're really in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't notice what's going on because you're in the thick of it. So it's like both of those.
He hit that though.
What?
Just taking that time to separate and really spend time with self.
Mm-hmm.
I think that reveals so much for us. When we're forced to do it, it's super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But then when we get into a practice of, all right, let me step back, and then we can see clearly, like we're in it, and
Yes.
how good it feels, or how not so good it feels,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can, just figure out what the next steps are. Yeah. I love John Baptiste.
Yes.
Okay.
He don't have to say nothing, sing nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
He can just play the music, and I'm like, Lord,
Yes.
Did he write this song for
Yeah.
me? Like just how
Yeah.
you think about the movie Moonlight?
Yeah.
I'm like, man,
Yes.
he knows me.
Mm-hmm.
My birthday, my birth time, and all my astrological information.
Yes.
Like it is like that song or those songs
Yes.
just touch my spirit
Yeah.
in a way that like allows me to transcend. It is so powerful. And then I'm like, well, I gotta run that back again. And then even my kids are like, oh, like run that back. Like run that back again. What was he talking about?
Yes.
Or I see him tapping your phone. I'm like, okay, this spirit, whatever this is, it's hitting all of us right now.
Yes.
But it allows me in my alone time when I'm thinking, allows me to transcend
Yeah.
and just really tap into like why I'm here for what, like what am I doing?
That's right.
With no words at all sometimes, just the instrumental. Yeah.
Art.
Yeah, it's the storytelling for me.
I'm crying.
Really though, I just really always just appreciated the storytelling within all the art forms, music, movies, books, and even just people. Like literally, I love a good story so much. Like so much. That's really all I need to like relate. And that's, I feel like the basis of the job that we do is just really telling stories. And like what role are you playing in that story?
Yeah.
In whatever role you're playing, you should be committed to like playing that role. And like you gotta identify that role, be a smart actor, be a vulnerable actor to be like, okay, I'm in this story in this way. Luckily for Fat Ham, Tio is a character who's, like I said earlier, from the outside looking in. So, the play is about blackness and it's about queerness, but it's also about the people who are outside of those communities, the people who are not black, people who are not queer, and how they kind of view us in a way. And so, I think this play is for the people who are on the outside looking in, and like how it could also heal them, because people have a lot of different hate. I mean, there's people who hate black people, there's people who hate queer people, and I think this play is a great way for those people to even be seen, through the character of Pap, through the character of Rev, through the character of a Tio who's on the outside looking in and who's able to empathize with those players in that story and relate, whether or not somebody's black or whether or not somebody's queer, they still should be able to empathize with those communities and see themselves in those stories.
Yeah.
And just that's what I really appreciate about the play.
I love that that's it. Like, it's a. There were some parts in the play, and I was looking around that made me look around in the audience and see who was laughing.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of check myself on that, because I was like, I feel like sometimes in our culture, we're like, we can laugh at that, but like,
Yeah.
y'all can't laugh at that.
We're not teeth in sight.
Yeah, so like there were certain times where it was like, okay, I get it because it's us. But then I was like, well, why are y'all laughing? Y'all, yeah, so it made me really like look at myself and like how I was feeling in those moments and why. But I do love like part of the play it's our narrative, and it's like it's how we want to be seen and how we want to show up and be perceived. So it's not like, I feel like society so often like pushes us in this box or only shows us in this certain light. So it's like, that's what I think that those feelings came from, was like me being so used to people having to perceive us in a certain way like that. But I was like, oh wait, this is how we wanted to show up. So okay, like that can come out, or people can react in that way. So just to kind of start to wrap everything up, tell us like what you guys want people to take away from the show. It could be like personally, like for your character, something like the message, the moral that you feel like people can take away from it. And then I'm gonna ask you on a more personal level, but what is something with your characters that you want people to take away?
Yeah, my granny used to say, she just used to say like you think you bad, like somebody out there who's bad, they're badder. And I think in thinking about trauma and what people are going through, everybody's going through something, but the awareness that somebody out there is going through something heavier. It's just the nature of life. And I think the awareness of that allows us to kind of empathize with each other, give each other space. And so I hope that people take that away from this play, the idea that, we can relate to each other through our traumas and through our, the plight of life and the pain of being human.
Yes.
We can relate to each other just through that. And so you don't necessarily have to be within a community to empathize with that community and to be an ally in, the progression of like a more united people, ultimately.
Yeah. My prayer that I have throughout this process and every day that we perform is one that God is glorified, that God put us all in this place, whether it's us who are casted in the show or the specific audience member. Somebody couldn't make it to that show today. Somebody just got a ticket at the last moment. So they were meant to be there for a reason. So whoever is there on each day that they are there, that whatever God intended for them to receive, that they receive that. I pray that, I got this from my friend Jabril Muhammad Jackson, who is a singer and a dancer, who is just all around artist and just intelligent and spiritualist. And he says that he wants to set captives free. That people who are sitting in the audience who are held by something, shackled by something, whether it's their own internal sexism, misogyny, homophobia, racism, not wanting to love themselves, whatever it is, whatever that they're shackled by, that they are liberated and set free after they see this show. And that it brings them closer to God, that it brings them closer to themselves, that it brings them closer to those that are around them, whether they are familiar or strangers, that this allows them to connect and say,
You know what? I ain't talked to my son in a long time. I'm gonna give him a call. Or I haven't talked to my mom in a while. I'm gonna give her a prayer, because it may not be safe to actually call her. So I'm gonna give her a prayer, or I'm gonna send her some energy. or I'm a white person sitting in the audience and this makes me uncomfortable, but I'm going to challenge why I'm uncomfortable in this show.
Or just sit in it.
And sit in it, like whoever it is, like I pray that they are, and I don't want you to be there comfortable. I wanted to stir up something. That's what theater is for. We wanted to stir up something inside that makes you want to be differently and move differently in the world. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Okay, and what is something that you feel like both of you guys personally are going to take from this experience and like apply it to like your life or? Or maybe that's not me.
People gonna say this, they gonna say, let them. Let them and allow. And yeah, the answer will be deeper in May and in April, but like, yes, like it's, there's a work happening. Something's going, and we be talking about it. Something's happening on a level that I cannot fathom. And I just pray that we continue to show up, that we continue to be consistent, that we continue to get deeper, that we don't get comfortable, that we're continuing to find different things to affect this audience, because this is a show that's a grower. Like it continues to get deeper as we do it. We continue to find things. So I just pray that we continue to affect people and that we don't try to recreate what we did yesterday. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow don't exist. That we're staying in the present and that we're always that finding new ways to love it, to fall in love with it again.
Yeah, I actually saw the play twice, and it was like two totally different experiences for me. So like when you talk about like if I show up and I'm tired, like my actor, like me as an actor is tired. Like when I showed up on Sunday, I was in my comfy clothes. I was with a different group of friends. It was a different energy, so that really changed like how I perceive the art. And I'm sure, so I could see it from the other side of like, I'm in the audience and you're on stage, but totally.
When's the trauma coming? But no, like, and when that comes, I'll be there with you. God will go before me, so good luck on getting me. But, but like, I just want to be like, allow yourself to be in this moment and make this play and this experience help me in the future, be in the moment, on purpose, be me on purpose, laugh loud on purpose, laugh silently on purpose, don't laugh on purpose, cry on purpose, and to really like let go of, well, yeah, people gonna say this, they gonna say, let them, let them, and allow. And yeah, the answer will be deeper in May and in April, but like, yes, like it's, there's a work happening. Something's going, and we be talking about it. Something's happening on a level that I cannot fathom. And I just pray that we continue to show up, that we continue to be consistent, that we continue to get deeper, that we don't get comfortable, that we're continuing to find different things to affect this audience, because this is a show that's a grower. Like it continues to get deeper as we do it. We continue to find things. So I just pray that we continue to affect people and that we don't try to recreate what we did yesterday. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow don't exist. That we're staying in the present and that we're always that finding new ways to love it, to fall in love with it again.
Yeah, I actually saw the play twice, and it was like two totally different experiences for me. So like when you talk about like if I show up and I'm tired, like my actor, like me as an actor is tired. Like when I showed up on Sunday, I was in my comfy clothes. I was with a different group of friends. It was a different energy, so that really changed like how I perceive the art. And I'm sure, so I can see it from the other side of like, I'm in the audience and you're on stage, but totally different perspectives of that. Any last comments or things that you want to ask Dr. Darla?
No.
Before
this was just powerful. It was a very powerful, I think, discussion. you know, I know we were talking about the play and how you all showed up in the play and the characters, but I think this really speaks to like the men that you both are, and who you are like becoming. So even beyond the play, and the play is super powerful, even beyond that, I think the power sits like in you, and that's what I felt sitting here, and I think that's what everybody is definitely going to see and hopefully feel too.
Thank you for being a therapist.
Facts.
For real. Thank you. Like, and thank you, and I thank God for all the people that you will touch and that you have touched and that you will continue to touch. But the channel is coming through. Like, please, like you.
And I know I get on his nerves sometimes.
We all do. But I can already tell just meeting you, you're right where you need to be and where you need to be. Just thank you, because I know a lot of folks who wish they had a therapist like you. So please continue to do what you do, because just here I felt the session. And I loved it. I needed it.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's divine, because almost wore red.
Yeah.
We're all
Yes.
in alignment with each other.
And thank you for holding this space.
Guys, definitely. Thank you guys for being vulnerable. I think like the biggest thing with this channel and just with the movement with Artist Talk is like through conversation, that's the only thing that's gonna break down stigma. But more importantly, it takes people like you guys that are gonna be vulnerable and walk into this space. I know something we talked about was just like everybody's hiding something in the play. Everybody's hiding something, but that's all of us walking through life, right? Like everybody feels like they have to hide these things, but the more people that come out and walk in it, and they're like, hey, this is who I am, it creates that path for people to kind of like peek their head out and be like, like that's me. Okay, they're doing this thing. Okay, maybe that could be me that comes out. Or they like dip their toe in the water and they're like, okay, it's not that cold. Because you know, when you jump in the pool, it's not as cold as it is when you dip your toe in. Once you get in there and start swimming around. So y'all are really like creating a path for people to just walk in who they are, whether they see themselves in you or just see themselves in you as like personally or as an artist, as an actor, as a black man, as a queer man, as a straight man, as, you know, somebody from LA or Detroit or wherever. Like there are all these variables, but I think the most important thing is like being yourself, your authentic self. Going to use some therapy terms. Maslow's hierarchy. I think that's the most powerful thing that we can do, and also just to put the things out there that are real, which is like, yes, I look like this on Instagram, but like these are things that I'm going through too. Or I can have these big accomplishments and tour from state to state and be doing these big things. But I'm still a human, and I still need time for myself to decompress. Or I still need to, you know, reflect on old times to like to feel good or to remind myself of like where I've come from and my purpose. And there's just
Artist Talk is doing that too. So they're doing it through the play, but you're doing it too. Through Artist Talk. Like allowing people to show up as their real selves because you're showing up as your true self.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll receive. You know what? I will receive. Okay, yes. Because that's something I struggle with though. Like it is. Like I'm so used to like, you know, we create these spaces, and when you create the spaces, you don't always step into that space immediately. Like sometimes I be looking at y'all and I be like, okay, I created the space, but I'm like, oh, it's working. Oh, this is cool. Oh, y'all get to be yourself. All right, cool. Y'all are also creating a path and a way for me to like step into the conversation and be me, because that's not always natural for the people that create it. Sometimes they just create it and they dip. So it's like doing it together. I think that that's so powerful. So I'm grateful for you guys being here and being vulnerable and sharing your truths and your stories. And I hope that everybody that's out there, that you receive something and that you saw yourself in one of these people. We are not characters, we're real. We're real people. But I hope that you gain something from this. I hope that you can apply some type of boundary or balance to your personal life. And thank you for tuning in with us. What do they say? Like, comment, subscribe. We'll put a button somewhere around here. Thank you so much, Jordan, not Brandon. And Brandon, I appreciate you guys so much, and I'm super excited to see your journey.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, family, we'll see you next time.